we're going to start this one with you, Dylan. This is from Mark of Amherst, Ohio. And he says, what's the real story about the schools on the Big Island? The school reviews on real estate websites do not portray the schools favorably, and some report much lower success rates for Haole students. Haole is the Hawaiian word for foreigner, or actually more in Hawaii time, it's my white person. For Haole students, people I've talked to on island give the schools mixed reviews, some good, some cautious. This is a major concern for our move, both financially, if a private school tuition is a required expense, and more importantly, to make sure our children have a good education. Dylan, besides the fact that this was for a question about the Big Island, I thought that this would be perfect for you because, as you mentioned in previous shows, your wife is a teacher on the Big Island. So give us what would be your response to Mark?
Well, the first thing is anytime you look at internet reviews, a lot of times the people who have a negative review to give or a negative experience are more likely to make a review, right? The thousands of people who have a great experience, not just schools, but anything, are not saying anything. It's much harder to get a positive review than a negative review. So you got to put that into context. I would say, and yes, my wife is a school teacher. I grew up in the public school system. My kids are going to public school right now. Are they perfect? No. Are they perfect anywhere? Absolutely not. I would say it's really a case-by-case basis. I mean, you can be in a decent school, but have a teacher that doesn't jive with your kid and they have a bad experience, or they could get put into a class with a kid that gives them a bad experience. But on par, I would say, I don't personally have any concerns. My kids are 3/4 Haole. I mean, they were born here and, they're from here, but I don't think the skin color thing is a big issue. It's more just cultural and fitting in and accepting the culture for what it is. And, a big aspect always, and I always say this about the schools, is it's parental involvement. I mean, if you're involved with your kid's education and you're engaged, the teachers respond to that because so many people are not. And you can definitely have a good experience and get a good education in the Hawaii public school system. I have no doubt about that.
That's excellent feedback. I thank you, Dylan. The perspective is perfect, and I think the cultural fit is a real big deal, as you mentioned. We've talked about this on a lot of shows. Part of what this program that I'm going to be announcing about is that cultural fit. Let's jump over to Heidi. Heidi, how would you, if Mark was talking about Maui, what would be your response?
Well, Maui is a pretty diverse place. I mean, as I think we talked about a little bit on past shows too. I mean, there's not just one race or type of people here. There's a lot of people on Maui that come from different places, different cultures and backgrounds. Now, as far as the schools, I have a lot of friends that have kids in school, and they've had a good experience, but it's something unique to each family and each kid and where they're going to have a good fit. And I think regardless of where you live, I mean, that's always a parent's concern, right? Is making sure that your child's having a good experience, a good education, and being involved is really the best thing you can do.
I think involvement is the key. That is the key, because an involved parent can also take action and make things and move things around and get involved, etc. Scott, how would you respond to Mark if he were asking about this on Oahu?
Yeah, I'd say parental involvement is probably 80% of finding success, and then obviously every school is going to have a different environment for how that child is going to be working within, and some are going to be more favorable based on your conditions and doing that research. One of the things here on Oahu I would probably recommend is taking a look at some of the schools that have English as a second language for a significant number of kids, that where they technically speak another language, and so there's more hand holding within that classroom environment that can slow the process down for the whole group. But ultimately, it's just doing the research to see where the best fit is going to be.
And I'd like to add one more thing, Peter. So the other thing is not just lumping the public school system altogether, because yes, we do have the public school system, but we also have a lot of charter schools in Hawaii. So if you have a child that is interested in certain things or is more adept towards technology, there's Hawaii Technology Academy, which is a mixture of online school, and they meet a couple days a week. So they do have the classroom interaction. We have other schools, like we have WEA on the Big Island that is near the water, and they do a lot of marine science type things, and so it's more geared towards that. We have Hawaiian immersion schools where they're taught to speak Hawaiian, and they go through their education speaking the Hawaiian language. So there's a ton of different options in terms of schooling outside of the traditional public school system, which is in a private school and doesn't cost you any additional money. So that's one thing to look into also, is the charter school system, and maybe locating somewhere near one of those, so the commute time and logistics of it isn't a challenge.
So in many ways, it's the same kind of research that you would do on the mainland. You want to pick out a neighborhood, you want to look at the school district, you want to see how close you are to the school district, what's the commute time, what's the availability. And we do have what's called the district exception process you can go through if you live in one district and you want to send your kid to another. But that's a process, and you have to be approved. And I don't know if there's a waiting list or not. Charter schools are great. You know, Dylan, you mentioned Hawaii Tech Academy. Actually, my youngest daughter went to Hawaii Tech Academy for I think the last 2 years of high school, and it was a fantastic experience. It's the kind of school I would want to go to. It's almost an online school, but they went to school in person on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday it was online. This was before COVID, and it's like, man, if I went to high school, that's the school I'd be wanting to go to, one that I don't have to go to. But anyway, great, great feedback. Excellent. Thank you all. Megan has come back with a great question.